हे दोस्तों, वेलकम टू अपना कम्युनिटी। ये वो जगह है जहां आप अपने असली पोटेंशियल को एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं। देखो, सबके पास स्किल्स होते हैं, पर क्या आपके अंदर वो स्पार्क है जो आपको कामयाबी की ऊंचाइयों तक ले जा सकता है? अगर आप सोच रहे हैं जॉब चेंज करने के लिए लेकिन रिज्यूमे सेलेक्ट नहीं हो रहा, या फिर इंग्लिश में इंटरव्यू देना थोड़ा चैलेंजिंग लग रहा है, तो फिक्र मत कीजिए। यहां हम हैं आपके साथ, आपको सपोर्ट करने के लिए। अपना कम्युनिटी में आपको मिलेगी बेहतरीन कम्युनिटीज जहां आप अपने प्रोफेशनल स्किल्स को सुधार सकते हैं। चाहे आप एक्सेल, टैली, जीएसटी में माहिर बनना चाहें, या फिर आप खुद एक ब्यूटिशियन या डिजाइनर हैं, तो यहां आप अपने काम को शोकेस करके दूसरों को टिप्स एंड ट्रिक्स देते हुए आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। अपना कम्युनिटी में आपको मिलेगा मेंटर्स का एक खजाना और बड़े इन्फ्लुएंसर्स का साथ, जो आपको हर कदम पर 1-to-1 गाइड करेंगे। यहां आप ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं अपने फील्ड या इंडस्ट्री स्पेसिफिक ग्रुप्स, जहां आपको ऐसे कई लोग मिलेंगे जिनसे सीख के आप वो गलती ना करें जो वो कर चुके हैं। ऐसे लोगों की जिन्होंने स्टार्ट किया था एज एग्जीक्यूटिव्स एंड आर नाउ सक्सेसफुल मैनेजर्स इन देयर डोमेन्स, जो आपको आगे बढ़ाने में मदद करेगा। यहां आपको मिलेगा वो सही डायरेक्शन जो आपकी करियर को नेक्स्ट लेवल ले जाएगा। तो लेट्स अनलॉक योर पोटेंशियल टुगेदर। अपना कम्युनिटी में ज्वाइन करें और अपने सपनों की ऊंचाइयों तक पहुंचने का सफर शुरू करें।
Great. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We'll start today's session now. So this is part of Apna Community Exclusives. It's a webinar series that we have been doing for the last couple of months in association with QFS. It's a regular sessions. We host 7 p.m. on weekdays and between 3 to 5 p.m. on weekends. So we cover a variety of subjects like web app development, Gen AI, interview prep, technical skills, etc. The main goal of these sessions is to help you grow professionally, help in the advancement of your career, get better jobs, and expose you to individuals who are already working in the industry. So today's session is about starting your front-end development journey in Angular. For this session, we have Akash with us. So a quick introduction about Akash. He's a full stack developer at SAP Labs with more than 4 years of experience in IT. He specializes in Java, Spring Boot, Angular, DevOps, and cloud platforms like AWS and GCP. He's an Oracle certified Java developer and holds AWS and GCP certifications. He also has a YouTube channel with more than 10,000 subscribers in which he shares insights on AWS, Java, and a lot of other stuff. He's also been a mentor with us for quite a few years, and he's helped college students, freshers, and professionals alike. We're glad to have him with us today. Thank you so much, Akash, for joining us. Before I hand it over to Akash, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box at any time. You can drop in your questions. When Akash is asking the questions, when Akash is answering the questions, you can also unmute yourselves and ask the questions. We'll allow you to do that. अगर आपका सवाल कभी भी कुछ भी हो तो आप चैट बॉक्स का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। अगर आप अपने फोन से लॉग इन कर रहे हैं तो इन कॉल मैसेजेस वाले ऑप्शन पे जाइए, आपको चैट बॉक्स दिखाई देगा, वहां आप अपना सवाल डाल सकते हैं। जब आकाश सवालों का जवाब दे रहे हैं तो आपको माइक अनम्यूट करने का भी मौका दिया जाएगा, आप उनसे सवाल डायरेक्टली भी पूछ सकते हैं। सो विदाउट एनी फर्दर अडू, आकाश, आई एम हैंडिंग इट ओवर टू यू।
Hey everyone, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, thank you, Siddharth, for the introduction. Yeah, so without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen right now. And please let me know if you can see my screen. Let's move on with the session without wasting much time because I want to impart as much knowledge as possible in this 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, just let me know if you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, Akash. The PPT is visible if you're in the presentation mode.
Correct, I am in the PPT.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so this session today is about kickstarting your front-end development. So FT I have written in short form. So front-end development using JavaScript and Angular framework. So if I remember, in my last session, I had given a complete roadmap about full stack development. And today we're going to see people who are interested in front-end development, who wants to develop websites, user experience, all this stuff. I'm going to show you how easy it is to start. Obviously, it is not that much easy to actually be a front-end developer. Like you cannot just flick your fingers and be a front-end developer. But whatever I'm going to tell you, if you follow it extensively, you will be a very good front-end developer, and it will help you advancing in your career as well. So let us see the agenda for this particular session. So first we're going to start with some JavaScript basics, because this particular topic is about front-end development, and we're going to start with JavaScript a little bit, right? Because to understand Angular framework, the core language that is being used here is JavaScript. So you need to have a very good understanding on JavaScript. I assume that you know a little bit about HTML and CSS, because we are not covering the web page development, I would say, in this particular topic, but we're going to cover a framework over here, and HTML CSS might take a little bit of more time, so I just wanted to keep everything short and simple. So we're going to start directly.
सर एक डाउट है सर एक डाउट है
बोलिए. Anyone was asking a question? Okay, no problem. Now, let's start with some JavaScript basics right now. Right? I'm not going to tell a lot of theory over here, but instead of that, I'm going to directly dig deep into the JavaScript the JavaScript language, and let's see some basics about it. So I'm going to open up my Visual Studio over here. So I have a very simple HTML page, because if you want to run JavaScript code, it has to be on your browser, right? अगर आपको JavaScript run करना है, तो आपको अपने browser पे run करना पड़ेगा. And for that purpose, you need to have a HTML page. And how do you run JavaScript code in an HTML page? It's pretty simple. You have to use the script src tag, and you have to point to your JavaScript code. अब मैंने अपना JavaScript code file का name मैंने रखा है index.js. So that is what I'm saying, that this is the code. Okay, so I'm going to go into my index.js file, right? So the first thing that I want to write over here or code over here is just a console.log statement, which will just print something on the browser. देखिए, आप JavaScript में, HTML में, CSS में, सबसे पहली बात, whenever you write code, it will execute on the browser, because this is a front-end based application, whatever you are trying to write, and this code will execute on the browser. आपके पास Chrome हो या फिर you have Firefox, whatever browser you have to execute the code on the browser. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can check the JavaScript code. So I'm just going to write console.log over here, and we're going to say hello JavaScript, right? Yeah, directly. It's very simple. It's not like Java where you have to create a class and everything. You can directly go ahead and write code in JavaScript, and it should be fine. This is a very simple print statement, I would say, where in the browser it will print something known as hello JavaScript. So if I go to my browser, so I have to open this index.html page, right? So I'm going to just go to this index. This is the page. This is the folder where I have kept all of my files. Okay. So I'm just going to open it. So I'm going to just open it with Google Chrome. Okay. Now you can see this is a blank page, obviously, because if you see my index.html page, I do not have anything to show. But if you want to show something, I'm just going to create a h1 tag over here, and I'm going to say this is a sample page, so that it will have some kind of a what we call it, a HTML, something like that. So to check your JavaScript code, you can go to the inspect. So you just right click on the page and you go to inspect over here. Now over here, you have the console tab. This is where all of your JavaScript code you can see getting executed. Okay, so I just printed something over here that is known as console.log, and that got printed over here, which is hello JavaScript. Okay, that's simple. Now let us start with some basic concepts of JavaScript. The first thing that I want to cover over here, and a lot of interview questions also. Interview के question भी इस topic से आते हैं आपको. Okay, and the first concept that we want to learn is the concept of variables. Yes, this is the first thing that you should learn in any programming language, and that is variables. Now, in JavaScript, we would have three types in which you can declare your variables. One is let, one is const, and one is var. Okay. Now, when you declare a variable with const, so I'm going to say const x equals to 10. This just means that the value of x that you have set 10. अब मैंने x का value 10 set किया हुआ है. The value of x is 10. So you cannot overwrite this value again. That value is fixed. We cannot overwrite the value of x. That's what I mean. Once you declare a variable with const, it is fixed, right? Constant, I would say. Second thing is var. So I'm going to say var b equals to 20. Now, var means that this value can be changed again. I can reassign this value v equals to 30. And if I do a console.log over here, v, then you would see that over here that the value has been changed to 30. I'm printing the value of v, that's it. Don't worry about the syntax trace. I'm just talking about basics concepts. You just understand what each thing means. You can obviously get the syntax from the internet or somewhere, wherever. So this is the var. Now let us talk about another type of variable that I told you, that is let. Okay, then we're going to see the difference. So let L equals to 40, and we would say console.log, and we're going to say L, right? We go back, refresh, you see 40. Now, what is the difference? So const means that if you want to declare a variable that has to be constant, you say const x equals to 10, and it will be constant throughout the code. If you want a variable that needs to be changed, जिसको आपको change करना रहता है, then you would need var. So you can reassign the variable. What is let? Now, the difference between var and let is not so much. This also allows to reassign the value. Let also allows to reassign the value. It means that L equals to मैंने अगर 50 कर दिया इधर, then the value of L will change to 50. So now you'll ask the question, what is the difference there? If var also does the same thing and let also does the same thing, what is the difference? Okay, I'm going to tell you one thing, and this concept is something known as hoisting. And this is a very important interview question for front-end developers. Maybe this might be the first question. If you go to an interview and say, I know JavaScript, this will be the first question that people would ask you. Okay. Now, what is hoisting? Now, let us do an experiment. Now, instead of declaring the value of v over here, I'm going to just, instead of assigning the value of v, I'm going to just declare the value of v over here. I'm not going to assign any value till now. I'm going to just remove all this to remove the confusion. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to try something that is very simple over here. I'm going to say console.log, and I'm going to say v over here. You see, it is coming as undefined over here. Now let us try the same thing. See, I have declared the the var v, and before that I'm trying to print the value of v. Understand the difference? I am printing the value of v before I'm declaring. Let's try the same thing with this let. So before I actually declare the value of let L, I'm going to say console.log and I'm going to say L over here. Okay, and let's see the output. So here I'm receiving an error, and the error correctly says that cannot access L before initialization. So here you can understand the difference between the var value and the L value. And this is the concept of hoisting. So the var value will allow you to use the variable before it is being initialized. Right? If I say var v equals to 10, this is saying undefined. So I say let L equals to 20, it is still throwing the error. So what is the solution? To basically, if you want to use let in your code, you would basically use it after you declare the value of L. So if you go now and see, now it is correctly saying 20. But there will be no error if you try to use the value of var before you declare it. Is that clear, guys? Do you have any questions in this concept? Okay, no questions? If you want to ask some question, you can raise your hand perhaps, and we can just get something. Okay, no problem. So let us see some more concepts about JavaScript. So the next thing that we're going to see is the concept of functions. So this is also very, very important to understand. Right? Now, what are functions? Functions are a piece of code, you would say, piece of code that does some, I would say, operation. Now, what can be the operation? I'm going to give you a very simple example. You want to add two numbers. Now, there are two ways you can do it. First is, you would write the logic directly for adding the two numbers. The second thing is that you can call a function. I would say the function name is add, and you pass two numbers, 10, 20, and this add function should return you the sum of 10 and 20, which is 30. In simple words, this is what a function does. Wherever you need to execute the logic where you want to add two numbers, for example, that is where you would use functions. Let us see one of the very basic examples of functions. So I'm going to create this add function, and let us see how we can work with it. So to create a function, you can just say function over here. Sorry. Function. And then you give the function name. And in this case, I'm going to give the function name as add. I'm going to accept two numbers over here, a, B. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to calculate the sum and return the sum. Return a plus b. It's pretty simple, guys. Pretty simple to understand. So return means that, return keyword means that, for the people who do not know, it returns a value for that function. So we're going to add the two numbers, and then using the return keyword, we would return the two numbers. Now, how would you use this function? It's pretty easy to use. If you want to calculate the sum, for example, const sum, or maybe let sum, we can do. Let sum equals to, I will call the add function with the values of 20 and maybe 80. So the sum, the add function should return me the value 100. So then I'm going to do a console.log over here, and I'm going to say sum is I would say sum. Okay, I might. So sum is 100, right? So that is what a function does. So if you have a lot of logic, right? I mean, you want to execute that logic in different parts of your code, for example, here or somewhere else. you maybe want to create a function and directly execute the code over there. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about, I would say, arrays a little bit, because that is very, very important to understand. So we learned about variables, we learned about functions, and let us see something about arrays. Don't worry, guys, we are going to jump into Angular in a bit. I just want to make sure that for the very newbies who do not know about JavaScript, at least have some idea what variables are, what functions are, and everything, so that it doesn't, the session doesn't feel like overwhelming, right? आपको ऐसा ना लगे कि ये बहुत ज़्यादा मैंने information दे दिया. So we're going to start from the very beginning. That's why I have started from here. So keep a little bit patience. I'm going to cover a lot of things about Angular. Right? We're going to start Angular in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes तक थोड़ा patience रखिए, and then we're going to start. Okay, that was about functions. Now talking about arrays. What are arrays? Basically, if you want to work with more than one variable at a time. अभी देखिए, अभी हमने ये var v को declare किया इधर, अभी const x को declare किया, तो एक time पे हम एक ही value के साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं. We are working with only one value. But if you have multiple values, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you want to work on these values, for example, you want to find the sum of all of these numbers, for example, then in that case, you maybe want to use an array. So how do you declare an array? It's pretty simple. You can just say const arr1 equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, if you want to access a particular element of the array, for example, you want to access 3. Now, remember one thing in an array, and that is true for any programming language, array starts from index 0 and then goes till size -1. इसका मतलब index is nothing but the position of the element in the array, right? So 1 has a position of 0 because it starts from index 0. 2 has a position of 1. Okay. 3 has a position of 2. 4 has a position of 3. And 5 has a position of 4. Because the size of this particular array is 5. So there are 5 elements in the array, right? So the size of the array is 5. So the index will start from 0 and go to size -1. And in this case, size -1 is nothing but 5 - 1, which is 4. Now, if you want to access a particular element in the array, basically 3, then you maybe want to do ARR of 1. Sorry, not here. Inside the log, you'll do ARR of 1 of 2, because the position of 3 is 2. The index of 3 is 2, I would say. So if I try to run the code, and you can see that we are printing the value 3 over here. Okay. Now, what if you want to merge two arrays? Now, for example, I want the values of this array 1, okay, and I want to merge another array with this array. I might have maybe another array. Let me go over here. I'm going to have ARR of 2, and it will have 4, 5. Sorry, not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But before that, what I want to do is I want to take all the values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want to put it in array 2. Basically, I want to merge these two arrays, so that the final array will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Right? That's what I need over here. So how do I achieve that? To achieve this, we use something known as a spread operator. And it goes like this, 3 dots. Now let's see how we can use it. So I'm going to say const ARR of 2 equals to, so first we're going to spread our first array. So dot 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 ARR of 1, and then we're going to add the rest of the elements of this array, 6, 7, 8. Now let's see what is the output. So I'm just going to say console.log ARR of 2. So if I go back, you can see now this array has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8. So what is the spread operator doing? It is appending this array ARR of 1 with the remaining elements of ARR 2, which is 6, 7, 8. And we get the final array, which says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Interesting, right? Now we're going to try the same thing with objects. Now, what are objects? Objects are nothing but key value pairs of data. So how would you define an object? So basically, I'm going to create a user object. I'm going to just create it and then I'm going to explain it. So const user. Now objects and arrays are very, very important when you are dealing with front-end applications, because आप जब front-end application को देखते हैं तो वहां पर बहुत सारे tables होते हैं, बहुत सारा data होता है, बहुत सारा information होता है, and basically just assume that कि वो सारे information, all those information are in some of a data structure like arrays or objects or something like that. So you need to understand the basic principles of objects and arrays and all these things. I'm going to create a user object over here, which will contain some user operation, information. So a user has a name, and in this case, I'm going to name it as, for example, wiki. So this is the key, and this is the value. So in an object, you can use the key to get the value. Okay. Now we have the name, for example, then we have the address of the user. And for example, the address is Delhi, and then phone number, you're going to say phone. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to say, for example, what age? I'm going to say 25, right? Now, I'm going to just print the user over here. And now if you want to access a specific value inside your object, for example, you want to access the name or the address or the phone, so you have to use the key to get the value. So the value for the name, the key is name. So you need to say name to get the actual value of the name. So how do you do that? It's pretty simple. So I would say console.log. I would say user.name. So if I go back over here, you see this is our object that I printed over here. You can see, and when I say user.name, you would see that I am getting the value as wiki over here. Okay. Now the same spread operator you can use with the object as well, right? So I can create another object over here. So I would say const billing details for the user equals to, first I'm going to spread the user, and I'm going to say balance, or I would say payment details, and I'm going to say 200. This is just an example. Now, if I bring the value of billing over here, let's say billing. Now, if I go back, and you can see that this has appended the user, all the values you can see of user, address, age, name, and phone. Along with that, you see the payment as well. So this is a very, very useful operator, guys, in JavaScript, which is the spread operator. Okay. And there are a lot of operators in JavaScript that you can just go and explore. This is just the power of JavaScript that I wanted to show a little bit, how easy it is to work with the data. Right? Do you have any questions? Please let me know.
Sir,
Okay.
last line once again explain.
This one.
Sir.
See, so अभी यहाँ पर हम क्या था कि we had a user object over here, ठीक है, जिसमें हमारा ये की और वैल्यू पेयर्स में हमारा ये जो डेटा हमने स्टोर किया, नेम विकी, एड्रेस दिल्ली, फोन 12345, एज 25. So the initial value is like this. This is the value of the object that we had created. This is the object. Now we are creating another object over here, and we want the details of user. इसमें जो सारे details हैं हमको चाहिए, plus उसके साथ साथ हम और एक value add कर रहे हैं इधर जो है payment. So we use the spread operator, which is dot dot dot, and then we say हमको पहले ये सारे details चाहिए. We need the details of the user, and along with that we need the payment. So when I display it now, if you see the object, the billing object जो हमने create किया है, इसमें ये सारे details हैं, address, age, name और phone, and उसके साथ साथ ये payment भी available है, right? So you can use the spread operator to actually merge objects or arrays, whatever you want, and it's pretty simple to do. Okay, I hope that is clear. So yeah, that was some basics of JavaScript that I wanted to cover. There are obviously a lot of concepts in JavaScript that I do not have the time to cover, but just to start with it, this is very simple, right? I mean, yeah, it might look a little bit overwhelming, but once you go through JavaScript, it's not that difficult. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with Angular right now. I'm going to give you a taste of Angular. Don't worry about the syntax, guys. I'm telling you again and again, बार बार बोल रहा हूँ, आप syntax का लिए घबराओ मत, आप concept समझो कि यहाँ पर मैं क्या करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. यहाँ पर मैं दो arrays को merge करने की कोशिश कर रहा था. यहाँ पर similarly मैं दो objects को merge करने की कोशिश कर रहा था. For getting the syntax, there are a lot of options to get the syntax. You have the internet, you have a chat GPT, जहाँ से भी आपको चाहिए, you can get the syntax. Anyways, so that was some JavaScript basics. Now let's go on. How do I? Okay. Why do you need a front-end framework? And I get a lot of these questions saying we have, we already have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We can easily create front-end, I mean, web pages and all this stuff. Why do we need a front-end framework? Now the answer is pretty simple.
Sir, this video is downloaded.
I don't know these. Can anyone answer this question?
Yeah, you'll get this video on YouTube. We'll be uploading it in a few days.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, why
Sir,
do we need a front?
This section join into 10 minutes late become. Is it?
It's okay.
Sir. Okay.
Okay. So why do you need a front-end framework? आपको front-end framework की क्यों जरूरत है? We already have HTML, we have CSS, we have JavaScript, right? We can create a web page using all these technologies. But हमको front-end framework की क्या जरूरत है? See, any framework that इसको मैं बहुत बड़े ही आपको आसान शब्दों में समझाने की कोशिश करता हूँ. आपके पास एक कार है, कार के अंदर इंजन है. I mean, other parts are there. I am not a very much a car enthusiast, so it has a lot of things. And by combining all of these things, you get a car. If you consider the car as a framework, you can directly take the car and drive the car. Same thing, आपको कार के बजाय अगर आपको कोई बोले कि आप कार का इंजन ले लो, टायर ले लो, बॉडी ले लो, you make your own car and then you drive. So the extra step where you actually make your own car is a little bit more tiresome. आप वो सारे steps करने नहीं चाहते क्योंकि you want to directly drive the car. आप सिर्फ उसको use करना चाहते. Same thing is with a framework. You don't have to worry about a lot of things when you are using a framework. The framework will do that for you. Like the speed of your development will increase, consistency will be there. There are a lot of built-in features of the framework that you might use. and there are reduced bugs, and it is more responsive. You don't have to worry about anything. You just go and use the framework. It will make your life easier and it will make your development faster. It's as simple as that. That's why we use framework. Otherwise, कोई भी जाएगा वेब पेज बना देगा, 1000-2000 वेब पेजेस बना देगा, कहीं पर भी कुछ भी रख देगा. स्ट्रक्चर मेंटेन नहीं होगा उसका. मेन है स्ट्रक्चर एंड code wise it will not be good, but when you use a framework all of these things improve. Okay, now about Angular, बस एक लाइन बोलना चाहूंगा. AngularJS is a JavaScript framework. Okay, and you can create dynamic web applications using Java, Angular. Why do we need to use Angular? That is also one question. Let's answer that in as simple as possible. Right? So this is your web page, for example. Okay, this is your web page. अब ये सारे बहुत ही generic terms है, उसलिए that's why I took this picture from here, so that I'll be able to explain to you how generic that is. आपका कोई भी वेब पेज ले लो, ठीक है, आप Amazon में जाओ या आप कहीं पर भी जाओ, कोई भी आप देखो, वेब पेज का कंपोनेंट्स पहले समझो. आप जब फ्रंट एंड डेवलपर बनोगे तो आप इसी तरह का पेज बनाओगे, एंड दैट इज नॉट दैट मच डिफिकल्ट आल्सो. सो हेडर कंपोनेंट, दिस इज योर हेडर कंपोनेंट. ये आप देख सकते हो जहां पर आपके सारे बटन्स है. दिस इज योर हेडर कंपोनेंट. साइड बार, अभी देखो ये है आपका साइड बार कंपोनेंट. ये जो आपका साइड बार आता है, दिस इज साइड बार कंपोनेंट. ये बेसिकली दिस स्ट्रक्चर इज बीन फॉलोड बाय ऑल ऑफ द मोस्टली व्हेरेवर यू गो एंड कहीं पर भी आपको वेब पेज बनाना हो, ये स्ट्रक्चर हर जगह फॉलो करता है. बॉडी इज दिस पार्ट वेयर यू सी ऑल ऑफ दिस स्टफ्स, एंड देन कम्स द फुटर. फुटर पूरा जो आपका नीचे में होता है, ये देखो, ये होता है आपका फुटर पार्ट, जहां पर आपका वेबसाइट का इंफॉर्मेशन होता है, एंड बेसिकली बहुत सारे स्टफ होता है जहां पर आपका कंपनी का लोगो वगैरह होता है, एंड ऑल द स्टफ्स आर देयर इन द फुटर पार्ट. सो इफ यू पुट एवरीथिंग इनटू वन पेज, आप हेडर ले लो, बॉडी ले लो, साइड बार ले लो, फुटर ले लो, इफ यू पुट इट इन वन सिंगल पेज, जैसे आपने ये index.html बनाया और ये सारा का सारा जो कोड है आपने उसको index.html में डाल दिया, दैट इज वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड. अभी अगर आप सब कोड index.html में डाल देते हो, देन इट विल बिकम वेरी बिग. देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ कोड. इट विल बी thousands of lines of code, right? And it is very very difficult to maintain that. That is why we use front-end frameworks like AngularJS. So AngularJS में क्या होता है कि आपको एक ही पेज में, not you don't have to write all of the code in one page or at one place, I would say. Instead of that, you can create multiple components. जैसे आपने एक header component बनाया इसके लिए, ठीक है, और बॉडी कंपोनेंट बनाया आपने फॉर दिस पार्ट, साइड बार कंपोनेंट आपने बनाया फॉर दिस पार्ट, फुटर कंपोनेंट आपने बनाया फॉर दिस पार्ट. Now the advantage is that you have 5 different components which does their job. So you have structured your code in a way so that you have divided it into 5 components, and each component is doing their job. Header component is responsible for just this part. Sidebar component is responsible for this part, and body is just for this part, and footer is just for this part. Now the advantage of that is that अगर आप और कोई भी पेज ले लो, जैसे बेस्ट सेलर्स में मैं जाता हूँ, ये एक पेज है, ये देखो हेडर कंपोनेंट हमेशा कांस्टेंट रहता है और फुटर कंपोनेंट भी कांस्टेंट रहता है. जो चेंजेस आता है वो बॉडी में चेंज होता है. So you can make one header component and you can reuse it in any different page. That is the advantage. अगर आप ये concept use नहीं करते, then for every single page you have to create the header, the footer and everything. बहुत सारा आपको redundant code लिखना पड़ेगा. आप reusable code नहीं लिख सकते. But in this case, when you use the concept of components, your effort and everything reduces a lot. Okay, I hope that is making sense. बार बार बोल रहा हूँ, आप कॉन्सेप्ट समझो कि मैं क्या बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. मैं यहाँ पर ये बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि how does Angular or any other JavaScript framework help you to write more concise, clean, and efficient code? Okay, I hope that is making sense. All right, so let's don't waste any time and let's start by creating an Angular app. And to make things even simpler, we're going to use ChatGPT, and we're going to tell ChatGPT what to do. Right? That's how you actually use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not going to replace you, or any AI tool will not replace you basically, but instead you can use these AI tools to your advantage and increase your development. So in our small demo, what we are going to do is pretty simple. ये एक API है. अब जिन लोगों को API क्या होता है पता नहीं है, मैं उनको बताता हूँ कि API is a way. API first of all stands for Application Program Interface. Now, by the use of APIs, we actually fetch the data from the server. तो बेसिकली क्या मैं बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ दैट थोड़ा सा मैं आपको क्लाइंट सर्वर पे थोड़ा सा मैं आपको इंफॉर्मेशन दे देता हूँ. ये भी आपको इंटरव्यूज में बहुत काम आता है. सो वी हैव अ क्लाइंट over here and then we have a server over here. So for example, client is your front end app and server is your backend app, right? On the front end there is a table and you want to populate this table with some data, for example some user information. But where will this user information come from? It will be coming from the server, which is a backend application which will communicate with your database and send the information back to your front-end app. And this front-end app will populate that information in the table. So nowadays, the common practice is that this server will expose something known as an API. The client will call that API. The server will respond back with some data. That is what I showed you over here. So this is the API URL, right? And when I hit this API URL, I'm getting data in this format. So basically this data is for a user with an ID, an email, first name, last name, and of that. Basically front-end developers generally get the data in this format and you need to use this data to populate your application, front-end application. Okay? So what I need to do? That's first question. Let's understand what we need to do for our application. So I want to create a simple application which will fetch the data like in this format from this API URL and display the data. ID to email, first name, last name, and avatar. I need the application to display all of these things by fetching the data from this URL. Now, we can do it manually, of course, by going through every step one by one, or otherwise, a very simple solution is to say that or give all the requirement to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will, generate the code, and we can use the code and make modifications wherever necessary. And in that way, we save a lot of time. But आपको concept आना चाहिए. If you don't know Angular, you will not understand what ChatGPT is doing or any other AI tool is doing. So first, obviously, understand the concept of Angular, and then you can use ChatGPT. Obviously, you need to have some coding knowledge on that. So try to do it manually at first, and then you can use any AI tool. The reason I'm using this AI tool is first of all to reduce the time taken for this particular demo, and also to make you understand that don't worry about all these AI tools. Instead, use those AI tools to get your work done. So here I have already given the prompt. Okay, मैंने already यहाँ पर एक prompt लिखा है saying that create an Angular app. Very simple English. In that app, I need a home component. मुझे एक वेब पेज चाहिए इसका मतलब अगर मुझे कंपोनेंट्स के बारे में नॉलेज नहीं है तो मैं ये सब लिख भी नहीं पाऊंगा. First of all, try to understand that. You need to have knowledge about all this. In that component, what I need is I need to show the details of the user, which will be fetched from this API endpoint. If you don't have the information about client and server knowledge, you will not be able to write this prompt as well. This is the API endpoint, and the response JSON will look something like this. That's it. So now the thing that the Angular, sorry, the ChatGPT has given me all of the code snippets over here. So let's try it one by one. So the first step is it is saying that to install Angular. So to use Angular, you need Angular CLI to run the Angular commands. So npm install -g Angular CLI. Now you have to also install npm as well. If you don't have it, you can directly search for npm, and you can download Node.js. That's it. It is simple to download. Anyways, so let us go to our over here, and maybe we're going to view the. Maybe we're gonna go to the terminal, and here what I am going to do is taking a lot of time. So I'm just going to go to cd .. and inside this Apna folder, I want to create the Angular app. Now to create an Angular app, it is pretty simple. You have to say ng new user details app, for example. I'm just going to copy this code from here. ng is the command line tool that is for Angular. Okay, I don't know why it is not copying. Control C. Okay, there is some issue. Let me check. Let me try this. On top. Okay, let us do one thing. I don't know why it is not working here. We're going to just present to this folder, and get that's it. NG user. Okay, I think there was some issues with the terminal over there, but yeah, this is working over here. So we say to create a new Angular app, ng new the app name, right? And to use ng, basically you have to install Angular CLI, right? That's what it is. Now in this Visual Studio Code, I'm just going to open another folder, and I'm going to open this user details app. Select the folder, and we have opened the user details file. Great. Now, if you see this Angular app over here, it has already given you like all of the stuffs that you need. I mean, it is in a proper structure, I would say. Right? So now what I will do is, I'm not going to go deeper into this particular structure. We are just going to create our home component really fast, and that should be what we will be doing. So I'll just keep this terminal open. I think this is over, right? Yeah. Okay, just going to maybe try to open the terminal over here. I don't know. Without calling, it's all done, I guess. Right. Now what we will do is we are going to create our home component, and for that we're going to say ng generate component. So you can easily create all this using the, I don't know why this is not working over here. It's weird. So let us try this on here only. So here we're going to try to create the home component. Let me just ng generate component. It is simple. Component. So much. Okay, I'm going to go to CD user details app because that is where we have created our Angular application, and here we are going to say ng generate sorry ng generate component. That is the yeah. Generating is clear. There is some issue with some configuration. Did it generate? Yes, it generated now. I don't know. Okay, it has generated all of the required source. Anyways, this is the thing. And I think we are running out of time. So I'm just going to run this app right now and going to show you how the app looks like. Obviously, we are left with a lot of things to do, but yeah, I'm going to explain you what the code has been done, but we don't have the time to do everything. We're just gonna run this app for now and serve, and we're going to see that the code package is not there. Let me try and install once. I don't know. I think a lot of packages are not installed due to some network issues or something. I don't know. This is not does not seem to be working. Okay, there is some unavailable package. Anyways, so I'm going to just explain you the code that it has been generated over here. So here, if you see, this is the code for our home component. In our home component, we have a ng on init method. So this on init method will be getting executed when your component is loaded. Basically, when you start your application. And when you start your application, the first thing we want to do is get the data from the API. That is what we are doing over here. And after getting the data, we are going to, just display the data in the HTML file over here, as you can see. We get the ID, we get the first name, we get the email, and we get the support text, and we display it as a HTML file. If you see the API details that I saw you, it had ID, it had email, it had first name, and it had last name. So what we did in the code is basically we got the information and then we just displayed it in the HTML file. That's it. So this is what you see, the power of using AI tools. You can easily use this to generate code and use it as per your requirement. Sorry, I wasn't able to do it completely. There was some network issues due to which some modules did not get downloaded properly for this Angular application. But yeah, you can try this out, whenever you want. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover is that there are other front-end frameworks as well, other than Angular, like React. React is a very popular framework that you see nowadays. Angular is there, Svelte, Svelte or something like that. Then we have Ember. Vue.js is also gaining popularity, but nonetheless, these are all JavaScript frameworks. Next, talk about a little bit about interview tips. So if you want to be a proper front-end developer, then make sure you are covering all of these topics like JavaScript, TypeScript. TypeScript is like an advanced version of JavaScript, you can say, which has it's a very long thing if I try to explain it. But in TypeScript, you will more Java developers will feel a little bit more, I would say, comfortable because it has type. Right? If you see in JavaScript, we declare the variables like var, const, and all this kind of stuff. We do not specify the type of the variable like int, float, double, like that. But in TypeScript, it is a little bit different. There's a concept of classes and all these things, and it makes your life a little bit easier if you are a Java developer and you are learning TypeScript. Angular, obviously, you need to learn RxJS, NGRX. These are all parts of Angular, kind of related to Angular topics. You have to learn all of these things. And obviously, you need to do unit testing. And the best framework to do unit testing in frontend is known as Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Focus on understanding the core concept of the framework like data binding, dependency injection, hooks, and RxJS. And obviously, you need to do some coding problems in JavaScript, some data structures, and a little bit of system design. Other than that, keep your profile updated on LinkedIn and your resume updated. And yeah, that's all I want to say about the interview tips. And I think I am done with this particular session.
Awesome. Akash, I think you covered an entire journey from the basics of JavaScript to Angular to showcasing further technologies as well. So thank you so much. We had one question in between. I would quickly read that out. With what framework can we easily create web pages? Can you hear me, Akash?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. So you don't actually need a framework to actually create web pages, right? To be honest, you can create web pages using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But as I told you, that when you use a specific framework like Angular, you basically make things easier for you. If you see the uh, structure that I've generated over here, it might look a little bit overwhelming at first. That we have a lot of folders over here, but basically what we did for now is just create an app and just basically one web page. But if you see the structure over here, in the SRC folder, there is an app folder, and for every component you can create one folder which will which will have its own HTML file, its own TypeScript file for the logic, and its own spec file, which is basically for your unit test. And if you want to add one more component, you can name it as, for example, header component. And this folder will have the required files for your header. That's what makes it, bit more structured. And as you see, we are using node modules and all this npm thing. So it will provide you with a lot of built-in libraries and stuff, and it will basically help you out a lot. That is why we use frameworks, basically.
Perfect. I think we have ran short of time. So we'll conclude today's session. Akash, any final thoughts, any concluding thoughts? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, the final thoughts I want to say is that, yeah, if you want to pursue as a front-end developer, then as I told about the interview tips, make sure it's not a easier thing to be a front-end developer. People think that it is easier to be a front-end developer than a back-end developer. As I do both, I know that there are pros and cons of both. But if you want to follow the roadmap, you can, see my instructions, whatever I told you, and you are good to go. There are a lot of resources, so you don't have to worry about, a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Akash. So, guys, with that, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you again, Akash, for joining us today and for sharing your expertise with us. I believe everyone who attended the session keenly and also will be watching this recording will find this session very useful and resourceful. Thank you everyone for joining in and making this a successful session. People who are here, a quick reminder to please fill the feedback form. I've shared it on the link. It will really help. Sorry, I shared the link on the chat. It will really help us improve these sessions and also allow us to invite you for upcoming sessions. So for this recording and also upcoming sessions, also previous sessions, you can visit the Apna website. You can go to the Xclusives page. You can register for upcoming events there. You can also see there what all events we have planned already for this month. As mentioned earlier, we'll keep having these sessions every day. We hope to see you tomorrow at 7. Thank you so much again, Akash. Good
Thank
evening,
you very
guys.
much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you.